Well, our first one is Brooks Koepka coming back to the PGA Tour. Overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
Yeah, you really like him?
I think Brooks is a competitor. I think he's won on the big stage. He's got all the credentials.
They care more about legacy than they do money, right? I think.
I think they care about both, but I think what rings true in life, both profession and sports, like at some point, like, what are you playing for?
Paying $550 to play TPC Scottsdale right after the Open.
Oh, overrated.
Overrated?
For sure.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
Have you done it?
I've not paid $550.
Played with the stadiums up?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's fun. And it's a great experience. $550 to play golf. I mean, everything's just crazy now. We I think we talked offline the other day about Sawgrass, right? It's like $700. Like, look, I want to tee it up, and who doesn't want to play 17?
Yeah.
$700 is a lot of money to play one round of golf. I'm not sure I'm in on that.
I have cleaning the grooves on your wedges. Overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
Yeah?
I think around the green, I think those clubs, you need them to spin. And I see some people play that never clean their clubs, and that's really weird to me.
Really?
I'm not like crazy obnoxious about it, but definitely clean. And then the other one that bothers me, if we're just on an aside, would be the driver without the head cover, just clanking around on everything.
Vince, we make fun of him. He gives his clubs a car wash.
Literal
after
car wash after every hit.
Every hit.
Oh, wow.
Sprays it.
Have a little spray and a little rag.
Yeah.
Gotta keep it clean. But, it's different when the grooves obviously affects, your 60, 56, when you're trying to get some spin.
Well, and the nice part about for you is like the sweet spot really is never hit. So you always got that spot in the middle that's perfect.
Yeah, I had one bad round. That was bad.
Oh, man.
Next time I'll have to show you how good I can be.
Yeah, I appreciate not embarrassing me out there.
Yeah.
That's good.
Jeez.
Welcome to On the Chair Podcast with Vince and Polo. We'll be sharing life-changing experiences from people that have built successful careers and fought their way to the top. Within these stories, you'll realize success isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you sit down with, put in the hours, and build from the ground up. Welcome to the chair. All right, guys. So this is Shannon Breen, the founder and CEO of FreightVana, a tech-enabled transportation company that's grown from zero to over 150 million in the last 5 years during probably the worst trucking recession of the last 30, 40, 50 years. It's a pleasure to have you today. We're here in Chandler, Arizona.
Yeah.
Met him recently, and he's an awesome golfer. That's where we met on the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And
Insane
he's
golfer.
grateful enough to come on the pod, give us an hour of his time.
Yeah.
So Shannon, just give us a little bit of a background of your resume for people who have no clue, a little bit of your resume and what inspired you to step away from the corporate world and start your own company.
My background, I grew up in Oregon. My family moved here, Phoenix area, when I was 10. Family here, good opportunity to kind of better schools and stuff. So moved here, and then, my background's in finance. High school and college here, went to Chandler High, Arizona State. The state of Arizona was great. So at that time, full ride tuition, room and board for a couple of years. It was a great program to stay in state. So I did. And then spent majority of my 20s in entrepreneurship. I did real estate, bartended at night for extra cash, did real estate, and then had a commercial and residential window covering company, kind of when everything was booming out here in Phoenix. So
were you an agent in real estate or investor?
Just an agent.
I didn't
Really
know
on the residential side.
Wow.
Nice.
I really love real estate, still love it today. And it was one of those things where I didn't put 100% into it because I had all these other things going. So it was a good add-on. But I felt like, man, I always wonder, like, hey, if I would have just stuck just with real estate, but no regrets, right? And so I kind of found myself more chasing entrepreneurship, doing the window covering piece. 2008 happened, kind of a reset for, one, my real estate investments, and then two, a window covering company that's ancillary tied to the real estate market. So that kind of forced me to go back to my degree in finance. I worked for a subsidiary of a private equity company out here in Phoenix and did some financial planning and analysis work. And then eventually, summer 2012, made my way towards transportation. I had no background in it, no nascent experience in supply chain, but a good friend of mine that I went to high school and college with had just got an executive level role over at Night Transportation. And so I started in the summer of 2012, interviewed, and jumped headfirst into supply chain and trucking and all the things. So
Your starting role at Night was what?
I had an interesting role. I mean, it wasn't an entry level job by any means. At that point, I was 31. But but it was like I was an account manager, but at the same time, I was trying to build the bridge between our national accounts, all the accounts, and they had all these big accounts that were being held by the trucking company.
Sure.
And at that point, our logistics branch was kind of, for better or worse, the redheaded stepchild of the organization. And so there was a lack of internal trust,
Got it.
lack of internal systems. And so one of my core jobs was just to try to build that bond and bridge and systems and reporting to give confidence to the overall org that, hey, like we can work together on these accounts. It doesn't have to be us and them. It was very like
there's
separatist.
competition,
Yeah. And it wasn't even competition, more like lack of trust, right, Vince? It was like, yeah, that's for the trucks. Like, you guys will just screw it up. So, right? It's like kind of deal.
You're talking like they had what, 5,000 assets at the time? Trucks?
Ooh, probably not that many. I think at that point they were a $600 million trucking company, a couple different divisions. So I think their assets probably been like 2,500 maybe.
Okay. So they had 2,500 assets and they had a separate brokerage, and it was just like, this is a really good customer. I want to move this on my own trucks, not maybe the brokerage side might screw that up. So we're trying to kind of connect the two and make it work together.
Exactly. And you see that in a lot of asset-based companies, right? And they've tried to figure out that bridge.
Yeah.
It's a tough bridge. I've got a lot of friends that work at small, mid, and even some of the largest trucking companies. And, you know, there's tons of advantages, but then there's these disadvantages that you have to sell through, because at the end of the day, and it's perfectly makes sense, the driving, you know, the drivers, the asset trucks are always the priority when you think about the totem pole. And so it does create that natural rub and friction, which is challenging because brokerage in itself already has a rub and a friction between internal teams and accounts and operations and all the things. So it added a new element. It was fun to work through. And then I got a chance to work on like the system side with the tech.
Nice.
You know, putting in a TMS system and getting a chance to do that for a few years. And so that really gave me a really good working knowledge of not only the business, but the inner workings of trucking at the same time. And then I got the chance to like learn and pull at the pieces of the tech and the behind the scenes. So very early in my career, I was blessed there to get enough touches to like.
Yeah. I kind of want to go back to, you know, you kind of have that entrepreneurial itch. At what age did you kind of really feel like you kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit, kind of your own boss?
I mean, you could have gone back to the 13-year-old version of me,
Really?
right?
Like, give us something that you did, because for me, it was selling cookies in middle school and going door to door, candy bars to raise money.
Did you make your own cookies, or were you getting them at like the store?
No, I would buy them and
Okay.
then sell them to all the rich kids for $1 a piece, and I'd get 3 for 1. So, I mean, I was profiting 66%.
Yeah. I think my entrepreneur, so I grew up just down the street, and, you know, they have all the side, like the wood panel gates.
Okay.
And so really quickly I was like, all right, well, my dad would make me do the wood paint and the stain on the gates, which is terrible job, especially like you're working most in the summer, it's hot. But I was like, man, if I just got like a wagon, I got the brush, I got the stuff, I got the drop cloth, I got some pictures, like I could show up at anybody's house. Like, they don't want to do that job either. Like, I hate this job, but what if I show up and, hey, I'll paint your single gate for $20, larger gate for $35. Everybody's house I'd stop at the age of, it would say yes, because it's like, yeah, that's awesome, sure. So, I mean, that was great, and that was kind of my first experience and foray into entrepreneur. I was like, dude, this is pretty cool. So I just hustled. It was not easy work, hot outside in Phoenix, but
You saw an opportunity. And you kind of acted on it. And like, how is that kind of translated later after obviously going from working from a big company to starting your own? Do you kind of really feel like you were meant to start your own company and you were just kind of ready for that when you were done, you know, working for that big corporation?
Yeah, I think, look, I always had an ambition for entrepreneurialism. Like I said, I thought it would be different. I thought it'd be in like franchising and stuff when I was young. I wanted to own like 30, 40 franchises and be kind of
Papa
like
John, stuff like that.
Yeah, whatever. Like, my uncle was in like Wetzel's Pretzels and different brands like that, right? So I was like, oh, hey, I could probably diversify, have these all over the country, do that. That was always my vision, and it just never really took off. You need a lot of capital to start it, and just never was my path. But yeah, to your point, I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, like, it's that spirit, but it's also like the team and camaraderie and leadership spirit. And like, I spent all my best times were always on sports fields.
Really?
Yeah, I love competing. And so the business piece was one piece, the team piece was another, the competition was the last.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, what a better way to put it all together than business when you get older, right?
No, for sure.
I was going to ask you about Kevin Knight. From what I hear, he's like a kind of a legend in the trucking world and was able to build a really profitable business. I mean, what are your, like, the highlights that you learned from him? Being able, I imagine towards the end you were working directly kind of under him, or
Not directly. So I really reported up to now their CEO, the guy that I grew up with, Adam, was more my direct report. But I spent a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
Not as much as obviously an Adam or the CEO, but enough time to get a sense for the culture, the person. Kevin's an ultimate competitor too.
what made them so much more profitable than like your average trucking company?
I think at the time, the discipline. They had an internal discipline. They also had this entrepreneurial spirit about them, which at some point at a certain size, which is interesting in every company's evolution, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, when you think about it, every company started as a small company. And then there's this interesting inflection point. And so I think in its heyday, if you will, you got a really charismatic leader, super competitive in Kevin Knight, driven. He studied a ton. He read a bunch.
Really?
He looked at like a Heartland, big trucking company, and that was one he admired, but wanted to be better than. And I think systemically also set up the business in a way to be very entrepreneurial, where when they were in this growth mode, not only did they have that discipline and that fight for the profitability, but they also enabled and empowered leaders as they were opening new terminals. It was almost like a new business, right? It was almost like a franchise was opening. Now, as the stories of all businesses go, then you get to a size where that starts to manifest itself in ways which is not ideal. And then you got to figure out how to rein it in and modify that. But I just felt like that discipline, his experience, his love for the industry, the drivers, his passion, and then that entrepreneurial spirit that he had just allowed them to just outperform. And look, it was very conservative, right? Like everything down to the negotiations of everything, right?
Yeah.
Trucks, equipment, fuel, like nothing was left off the table. Like they wanted to win every single one of those. And sometimes that goes also to
Was
employees.
he like a
and people.
micromanager? Because he gave some people entrepreneurial spirit, but also he's deep in the negotiations of everything. Was he micromanager or more, I'm going to trust my people and let them do their thing?
I think he always had the oversight. He was always involved. I mean, his name's on to the side. His family was still heavily involved. Like the other founding, two of the guys were heavily involved in the business. So I wouldn't say micromanaging. And at that stage, you realize I came in the summer of 2012. So that's 15 years or so after they went publicly traded. So it's a little bit of a different time. I mean, people may tell different stories in the earlier years, but when I saw him, you could just sense like the passion and the pride and the commitment and they were all in, right? Like there's no off button. And look, I think they're still working today. Like you got guys that are from it's all publicly traded info. Like they don't have to work, but that's all they know and that's what they're love.
Passionate about it.
Yeah.
What's crazy about the trucking industry, we always say it's funny how a lot of people, once you're in the industry, it's hard to leave. Like it seems like everyone that, if you're in it for 1 or 2 years, you're going to be in it when you're older. It's just in one way or the other, even though we fall out of love with the industry sometimes and there's so much headache and
every day, love, hate, love, hate. Yeah.
Like what is it about trucking that people just stay in it?
I think it's just the daily kind of getting, like some things draw you to it. Obviously the money, meeting new people, being able to travel, there's no limit. The sky's the limit in trucking. There's just there's nothing holding you back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's why you kind of wanted to start your own business and started FreightVana. Kind of talk to us about your thoughts and why you kind of started that business.
Yeah. But before that, I'd say my thing for trucking is actually the fact that it's so chaotic and the pace and it's never boring. Right. Like I tell people that all the time. I'll even finish some emails like, hey, well, at least it won't be boring.
Yeah.
Right. Because anybody in it, the thing that you love is it's not stagnant.
Yeah.
Like I've never had a job. I've had plenty of jobs between, but like even like when I used to work in the restaurant when I was a kid and bartend, like I love the chaos and the pace and the people.
Yeah.
And there are some corporate jobs you end up in, and I had a couple where it's just like the pace, the people, there's not enough chaos. And it's just like, you're looking at your watch, and there's never been a day.
Yeah, it's the same.
Literally
So
in
different.
14, 15 years in where it's like, oh, that day was just the same. Like never. It's always something. And so I think for those people that love that.
Yeah, it's an addiction.
Mm-hmm. Because like anything else would seem so boring.
Mundane.
Mm-hmm. Mundane. Love it. Yeah. So that would be my answer to that question.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit why you started FreightVana and why you chose to, I mean, at a weird time, 2021, kind of going into COVID.
COVID was kind of in the midst of it, wrapping a little bit.
Kind of in the middle, but then it really ramped up end of 21, 22.
It could have been a weird time, but it ended up probably being a great time to start.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It was a good time to go. I mean, look, I couch it as like three big things for me in my life. I've talked about my entrepreneurial spirit, so I think that's just like an underwhelming driver. But the really three things happened. Like one, we went through 2020 and COVID was like at the depths of 2020, right? March 2020, the world changed. Mm-hmm. I think it made us all, at least made me and people that I'm close to, kind of reassess a lot of things. Yeah. Right? You reassess your life. Some of the things about the corporate culture were certainly less than desirable, for me personally. Mm-hmm. Time with family, the sacrifice, all that. Yeah. So like I always couch it really with 3 C's for me. One, COVID, because of all the change that it really just kind of forced people as it kind of changed the world. Mm-hmm. Saw some people get afflicted by COVID. Like I had a contractor in my house, man, that like amazing, sweet guy. And one day he's playing with my kids in the backyard and throwing the football, and I don't hear from him for a week. And next thing you know, like he got COVID and didn't make it out of the hospital. It's like, I mean, so those sobering moments, right? So that's the COVID, that C. The other one I mentioned is corporate culture, right? Like big companies are great. You learn a lot. Nothing bad to say there. I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for that. But there's also the other pieces that come that are very true about corporate cultures and bureaucracy and all the things.
Politics.
Politics and
favoritism.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've worked in a place before. I mean, look, and I had a great job, and I had great responsibility, and I was making the best money I've ever made at any point in my career. But what was missing in that environment to me was like the fulfillment. Mm. That, going back to one of your initial questions we talk about with Brooks, I'm not Brooks, but at some point in your career, that money doesn't change your life. Yep. And then when that doesn't change your life anymore, then you start seeking things that you think would be more fulfilling. And I think why a Brooks and a Patrick want to come back. Yeah. $5 more million doesn't change any of those guys' life. So giving them another $5 million, but they're like, but what do I want? And I want to compete and I want to challenge myself on whatever they want. Mm-hmm. For me, it was similar, like making this good salary, I've got this equity, the company, I've got these responsibilities, the role and title, but I wasn't being fulfilled and didn't feel like I'd really be able to live out that ambition that I wanted to seek. So one was corporate culture, but kind of all that tied in a bow. Yeah. And then the last one that I'd share with you guys, and I've shared a few other places, is like my dad got afflicted with cancer, right? Oh. To watch my dad go through that and leave my job and see him go through that, like that was a changing moment for me, right? And then my dad always, the key to that story is that my dad always had these entrepreneurial spirits as a kid. And when he was young, right? I remember my whole life always trying to do, like, he was a school teacher, but always on the, I'm going to sell weight equipment. Yeah. Oh, I've got this product I'm going to sell. Always a side hustle. And so he always had this like burning itch to be an entrepreneur, but it always came back to like my mom and him were, 35, 40-year teachers. Because that was the stable path. That was the one that provided. And so then you got to realize, like, now I'm in this corporate job. I got all these like thoughts going through my head. I feel like there's more I can accomplish. And I'm watching the guy that like pretty much sacrificed a lot of that ambition to give me what I had. Yep. And that amalgamation of those three things, like I kind of got to a point where I was like, it's time. Hey, I'm willing to jump out of this plane and bet on myself. And I was like certain that was like my path, and so I did, and I didn't really look back, and I didn't have regrets, and had a really great support system. And then the story grows, and you get people to invest in you, and you hire the team, and we can unpack some of that. But at the end of the day, like that was really the driving force. Is like, those are the core, really three things that led me to that.
Wow, that's awesome.
That journey.
That's amazing.
transitioning a little bit more to just about FreightVana, why? I mean, there's so many ways to start a trucking business or logistics company, right? Buying assets. You could have bought out a small company. You could have started just a regular brokerage. Why go the leasing or owning trailers and power only brokerage mode? And could you have grown what you did from the last 5 years with just a regular brokerage?
To answer your second question first, I don't think so, right? I don't think the market is desiring more of the same. And so it's saturated.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like if I'm offering the same thing that everybody else is offering, then the only reason it would be beneficial is maybe they like me more, which there's always a piece of that from they like me more, they like our company more, or I'm cheaper.
Yeah.
So if I'm selling the same thing, then what's the value to them? Either they like me enough to spend more or I save them money. And the reality of those two things was, especially with the size and the landscape of, North American brokerage being 150 billion, 200 billion, whatever number you want to assess it to be, like that's a deep pool with big systems, big buying power. I mean, I know some of the guys, I'm close friends with some of the guys.
Coyote, all these big guys.
Yeah, Arrive.
Nolan.
Yeah, I've known Matt since he started Arrive 12 years ago. Wow. When he was in early innings, and now he's running. He just posted like, "Hey, we cleared 2.7 billion." Like, that's a climb, right? And only done by a few. And so, that's literally if you want to be a normal brokerage, like, okay, well, where's your niche compared to theirs?
Yeah.
And that just becomes a task that I'm like, I don't think that's the angle. So my real passion in FreightVana was like, well, what would be different? What would be different about a logistics company? I had an opportunity at post-merger with Swift when Knight became Swift to build, and had the support of the institution to build kind of the power-only division.
Oh, okay.
From scratch, formally. So built a team, built an operations team.
Nice.
Had the learnings. And so I had that really cool experience, and I realized, man, like it's good, has its pluses and minuses inside this environment, but what if I could build it from the ground up independently? Like that was a huge frame.
So you tested it, actually. You got to test it a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, with all the benefits of certain things in a large, $8 billion enterprise. Yeah. So a good testing ground, but you got to realize like you're not going to have some of those benefits when you leap. So how do you get some of them? What are you going to give away? But there's also significant positives to that too. Like now I don't have, 15,000 trucks that need freight in front of me. Now, when the market turns and it gets bad, because you guys know trucking, I don't have, some previously named executives basically saying like, hey, you could just take all that freight. That's all going to go on the trucks. Yeah. And I'll just need that done by next week.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a hard way to grow a business. I've used this analogy. I'd share it with your listeners too. It's like, people like, hey, how would you like building that type of a brokerage inside the walls of like a trucking company, the way that we did it, it was almost like building sandcastles too close to the ocean.
Yeah, wipe away at any moment.
And like, look, hey, Shannon, you can build that again. You built it once, you could build it.
Yeah.
True, you can.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah, it's a hard, long process.
And so, that just became one of the reasons why we say, hey, well, what if I built this thing
to last?
Yeah. So build it with that. Set it up. You asked about the difference. The non-commission was a big piece. So we set up as a non-commission operation. So highly paid pros, experienced pros, not incentivized, right?
Why non-commission? Why is that?
Yeah. So one of the things I looked at, thinking about changing, shifting the paradigm, not right or wrong, but one of the biggest issues in business in general, and especially with just brokerages, the connotation is trust. And the problem with commissions in some environments is they lead people to make decisions that are very self-serving and take away from the best decision for the carrier, for the partnership, for the customer. Yeah. And I particularly think money, right, is a big driver, good or bad. Right? You can get really good results from that. Some have. You can also create this environment where it's really inauthentic, where you're like, oh no, I want to do right by the shipper. And I'm going to do right by the carrier. But everything I pay is going to be predicated on how much money you extrapolate from one of those two. Yeah. Now, that's a tight rope.
Yeah, because if you go all the way one way and you don't care about your profits, and you know, let's say there's an issue, the carrier wants more money, the shipper doesn't want to give it to you, and you're just extremely generous to the carrier. If you do that times 1,000 loads in a week, you're cooked.
That doesn't work,
Your
right?
margins,
So you got to balance it, but that's an interesting perspective. I mean, I want to say most brokerages are built on commission.
99%. Yeah.
Is Arrive agent based?
Not agent based. They're commission based though.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have employees, but commission based. There's huge agent based models. Obviously, those are all commission. I mean, profit share. You could
of course,
use a different term, but it's effectively the same thing. So I just thought, okay, would it be cool to create a business like that? We could align with the carriers and shippers. We've got a transparency platform which highlights like the business, the transactions.
Nice.
Makes them know like, hey, we're not here to not make money, but like, here's what we can do for you.
Yeah.
So that's unique. So the foundational items would be the non-commission structure, the power only, and then a piece that I just love, which is like the brand and the marketing. So yeah, the other big piece when you work for a big company is like, you know, they've got departments that do it, whether you think they do it well or not, whatever. Yeah. But like, I've always had a passion for like branding and marketing, and was never really able to do much of that, obviously, inside. Because you're right, they have all these rules, and you'll offend somebody, and you got to get 25 sign-offs. So when we created FreightVana, it was like this freedom for me and my director and Josh Breeze, who does a lot of our social work and stuff. It's like, man, hey, let's go create like this dope brand.
Yeah.
Like this brand that like, it's fresh.
I like your vest. I like the hats you brought us. They're really sick. I also saw your website today. Yeah. And I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, so all that goes into it, right? It's just like that creative feeling like, hey, what's a brand that like people know by name, people support? We've got this, you mentioned our trailers earlier, right? We've got over almost 750 of them now on the road. And what's the coolest thing from a branding is like we created this silly thing. I would have never thought this 4 years ago. But it's like FV in the wild hashtag. It's like our hashtag, right? You see that?
I saw one of your trailers on the way from Vegas to here, I think, like 2 of them.
Yeah. And so now like friends in the industry, and you'll see on social and different platforms, they'll post like, hey, I saw my first FV in the wild. Yeah. And when they post, usually we'll send them some swag and some stuff. And so we've created this community. When you think about it, guys, there's 5 million trailers on the road. Like, no one really gives, I'll use a professional term, like 2 shits about a dry van trailer. But what's cool, the way we've shown up for the industry, the way that we've kind of just been fun, the way that we've been
making
trying
it cool
to
again.
Yeah, it's like, hey, trailers can be cool. And so now when people like, hey, FV in the wild, I saw one of your trailers, like, that is such a unique thing that my team has created. And I think it's the passion that we have for the industry. I think it's the willingness to kind of go outside the box and a little outside the lines on making jokes, having fun, being loose. But that's how, like, personally I want to live. That's how our team kind of like finds that, like, kind of that vibe, as the kid would say. And like our peers, and I think people respond to that because it's very authentic, and we're not trying to be someone else and no one else like we've seen before.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd ever run the same model with reefers or flatbeds?
It's so funny you say that. I had a pro the other day. I won't name the customer, but like I'm supposed to meet up with him in Vegas in a few weeks, and he's like, we need to do this for flatbed. The problem, and I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts here, the problem that I see based on what I've learned in the last 7 years is that a couple things are true. One, in reefers and flatbeds, the ability to like preload doesn't create as much of a value stream as it does in the dry van space. In the dry van space, it unlocks operational constraints. You can load something, put it in the yard, you can load it overnight, but you guys move a ton of flatbeds. Being able to do that off cycle doesn't really like unlock much.
There's some carriers or some customers that do that, where people park trailers in the yard and they preload them, but it really only works if you have your own assets, I feel like. Like if you're
power units.
If you have your own trucks also, and you have 2,000 trucks and 3,000 trailers, but with flatbed it's a little bit more. Every driver has a certain way they strap it. It might look unsafe going down the road. I mean, how do you preload a load of drywall? They tarp it for you, and then you show up and you got to fix the tarp because you don't like the way it's going to ride down the road. And there's a lot of different things than driving and reefer, which is kind of just load it, and as long as it gets delivered, it's good.
So that was my thought. And then the other piece that you learn very fast is you have to have, like people talk about, density and a network effect. Yeah. So this particular customer's like, two things I would say that you have to have is you have to have the density. He's like, well, I don't have it internally. Like it's not round trips.
Yeah.
So now you need to have multiple customers to create the network effect.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in a flatbed heavy environment. Like I don't have that. Is it possible? Sure.
Yeah.
But like you got to be able to believe, yes, not only maybe the preload helps or hurts, but now I got to create a network effect. And then his last commentary is like, which I would also say I don't believe is true, is like, oh, my carriers say they would give me this type of a discount if they were hauling, if I had the flatbed. And I'm like, my statistics would tell you that, yes, you can save some money, and you should because you've got the invested in the equipment, but not the number that you think you're saving. Like the carriers don't value it that much to give you that much off. They would rather just pull their own flatbed and get loaded and make the price.
Especially when you can finance one for $600 a month.
Correct.
They're just gonna have it on.
Those parts I don't believe. To flip it really quick to answer on Reefer, tons of liability. Most refrigerated is live. Why? Because you got a unit running, and if the unit's not running or with the right fuel, like now you've got claims issues.
There goes $100K.
How many people want to be preloading?
How much does a load of steaks cost?
Yeah, exactly.
Filet mignon.
Yeah, so who wants to load, get it to a temp, pull it to a yard, hope it's working, have someone pull up?
Yeah.
Who's going to manage the fuel while it's sitting there? Like
whose fault is it if it stopped working?
100%.
Figure that out.
100%. So in the different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you guys are pros. Like flatbed different for the reasons you said. Reefer different. So possible. Yes, the other downside of Reefer is the equipment is extraordinarily more expensive too.
And flatbed. I was going to say there's what can you get a drive in for? 15 grand, 10 grand right now?
Oh, I mean, no, you'd have to be in the used category. Brand new with like FET, you're probably like 35 for brand new.
And for new Reefer flatbed, you're 80 to 125.
Right. So now you got to make the economics work on that. Is it possible? Sure. Yeah. Is it something that like it's right on my roadmap, the things that we need to accomplish? No.
I think holding costs are a lot more in a Reefer flatbed versus a van. The cost of hold, I think that's what makes it kind of unattainable. And because they're so much more expensive, is if someone does damage it, the cost of fixing a Reefer, a flatbed, the steel, all the metrics and all that, it's expensive. And so, I mean, I am starting to see a lot of my clients say, hey, can you drop 5, 10, 15 trailers there? And I
can't wait to meet them.
Yeah. And I think the hard part is like you said, I think Van you guys are primarily ran by retail.
We got like 40% retail.
Yeah, retail. Yeah. I mean, I would say retail gives you a little bit more of that consistency. That flatbed and Reefer don't really have. I mean, Reefer a little bit more, but flatbed for sure does not have that retail consistency.
Yeah, there's 40 loads of steel that need to be moved to a job site for a data center, and when it's done, that lane is gone.
It's gone.
And then it's the next lane, whatever. So
the network effect's harder to build.
Yeah,
which is kind of the point to that executive that was like, we need to do this. And I'm like,
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's doable, but you have to line up so many pieces and then attack. And by then, you might be out of time. That's just kind of the nature. But yeah, I am seeing a lot more of our customers saying, hey, can you drop 3 or 4? I mean, so what we're trying to do is have our carriers that we partner with drop equipment there and kind of give that service now. So we find a carrier with 10 trailers, we drop at a location, and then I tell that customer, hey, we want these lanes. We'll help you out a little bit on the other ones, but and it's kind of a big
but
learning
it's a balancing act because most of the time they want someone that can. Like if we have an owner-operator drop trailers, they only want to go a certain lane.
Yeah.
If the customer offers us a load way outside of that, they want us to accept everything that they offer.
Yeah, of course.
And we can't. So it's a balancing act, and we're dealing with that with some customers. But I wanted to ask just real quick, since you have a ton of knowledge on the transportation industry, how do you feel about the whole like rate transparency rule that they were trying to do? I don't know if it's done. I haven't heard of any actual effects, but that where like
Broker transparency.
Yeah, I mean, what will that do, and is it going to do anything?
I don't think it'll end up passing. I think the government's getting more involved in transportation. I think you saw just last week, not on the rate transparency, but on liability, which is a way bigger issue than rate transparency. I would tell you guys my opinion, but I mean the top officials came out last week supportive of C.H. Robinson in that case, basically saying like, we support the fact that brokers need that arm's length, liability protection. You think about that I would say personally, and I'm glad they did that, because quite honestly, it's a little ironic because the government, where we all capture our data, where we all where these folks are getting their licenses, they can't tell us who's safe effectively. However, somehow now
they want us to.
Your company, my company, is supposed to wake up, 4 years in the business, and on a national scale have like, what would I tap into to evaluate the safety and credentials if our own government? Yeah. I mean, the irony of that. So I do like the fact that the government came out and was like, look, from a liability perspective, like, look, there are scenarios where you can cross the line. Yeah. There's the scenarios where you can eradicate that arm's length transaction. But for the majority of brokerage, like, they're making the decisions based on information that they have, and they are not ultimately responsible for the truck and the thing. And otherwise, I think the brokerage industry, I wouldn't say evaporates, but it would look tremendously different if every time you had an accident, you were completely liable. Like, the insurance rates would skyrocket. Only the biggest would probably be able to withstand and be able to self-insure.
What's that record? The record award from a jury in a trucking accident? It's like some crazy, like 100, 200, 300 million.
Yeah, the nuclear verdicts. Yeah, I mean, so like you wouldn't be able to sustain the insurance for it. Anytime you had an accident, you'd be looped in as liable. I just don't think there's not enough money in it to make it worth the business.
With a FreightVana trailer, then I mean, you're kind of more liable, right? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a piece of equipment. We keep up the upkeep on it. Ultimately, they're doing inspections. They're making sure it's roadworthy. Their drivers are well trained. We have an app and all that. But yeah, I mean, look, it'd all be risk of liability, right? Even on the choosing before you even have equipment. But yeah, there'd always be levels to it. So I'm glad that came out. The transparency piece, I don't think will ultimately pass either, for various reasons. But I mean, the landscape is sure changing, as you guys have seen with trucks and drivers quickly.
I mean, my perspective on the transparency thing, like, why would that be a thing for brokerages? If a contractor comes to my house and he quotes me $20,000 for a new deck, do I have the right to see what he's paying his guys and everything? Like, since when is that a thing in free market business? Just go get 4 quotes and pick the best one for you. So for a carrier's perspective, if the carrier is saying brokers are making way too much money,
go haul for a different broker.
Yeah, go haul for someone else. Go do the other load. It's a free market, and it's going to go up and down. By the way, all the carriers think that the brokers are making 30% margin. Or
I mean, there are times. I mean, I think they see some of the publicly traded guys that are massive, like industry leaders, like C.H. Robinson, right? But like that's a one of one.
Yeah.
Everybody else that I know, it's been a battle, and the rates have continued to drop. Now we're seeing a little bit of change recently, but hopefully the value paradigm changes. We get bound to a more balanced structure, where service, the communication, quality, responsiveness, the types of drivers you bring, like all that is the value stream. The market the last 4 years has really been predicated on price.
Yeah, I think a lot of the bad drivers are starting to exit the market, with all these policies coming out, and like liability, and there's CDLs and all this stuff. I mean, they're literally snatching CDLs and all over the country, and I think that's drawing capacity out of the market. And I'm even starting to see in 2026 where it's a little bit more difficult to find a good, reliable driver that, in a lot of cases, a lot of our customers want English speaking, right? They're not coming out with, we want English speaking only. Can you understand what we're saying? We don't want you to get on the truck. Don't get on top of the load, right? So that helps, if as soon as I know of a driver that even maybe a little bit might not meet those expectations, I'm not even going to worry about it, because I'm not going to lose my client because I sent in a driver because I'm in emergency mode, right?
Right.
The risk is not there now. So now I'm raising my rates a little bit, and I'm saying I want to get quality guys, and I want to provide a better service, and I think that's happening all across the United States right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
The customers steel, you go to a steel manufacturer and they need steel toe boots only. And the driver will walk in with Crocs and shorts. And it's like, hey man, what's up? You know that you need PPE. And they're like, oh, and they don't even speak English. Yeah, it's a whole mess, especially with, I don't know if it's like that in the dry van world as far as PPE. Yeah.
Not as much with PPE, but certainly with English proficiency.
Yeah.
Certainly with, insurance qualifications. I think another interesting one, like the post office came out and said that obviously they're supported by the government. And so they're going to support that policy. But what's really interesting is they've been known for a long time of having teams, long length of haul at pretty cheap rates. Yeah. So those worlds now collide where it's like, but the profile and types of drivers you used to contract
to do those
won't be available. And if it is available, it'll be available at a higher price. So how exactly is that going to work? And then I think that's an area of our industry that's going to constrain the quickest. The long haul team, those types of loads will start costing a lot more the fastest because of what you talked about, Vince, and what you guys are talking about. It's just, that'll be like the local dense, quasi-dedicated, super regional.
Easy stuff.
Fine. But that length of haul, riding in a truck with somebody else, that's the area that I think gets impacted the most. So for shippers that have that profile of need in their supply chain, like I'd expect when the world continues to move, that'll be where you see the price challenge first.
So I want to switch a little bit to your personal finance, not how much money you have, but just...
That's good because I'm startup 4 years, freight recession. It's not the best story.
But in your career, you obviously done real estate. You said you love real estate. I'm sure you've had, your share of stocks or investments. What's been like the best ROI sort of investment you ever made, and maybe the worst one where you lost the most amount of money?
Yeah.
Same answer, real estate. So now it's timing, right? I told you when 2008 crashed, I had a condo that I'd purchased pre-construction. I had some other dollars in, and when the market fell out, that was a big blow financially. And then similarly though, 10 years ago here in Phoenix, I got married to my wife, and we wanted a bigger house, and found this great house in Chandler, not too far from here. And got it at a great price, and the Phoenix market's just absolutely boomed. So it's probably worth double. Yeah. So real estate, I've seen both sides of the coin, and I know it's nice to have the security, and we're in a great neighborhood and love where we live. So that'd be probably the best from a financial perspective.
Yeah. So real estate best, real estate worst.
Well, and look, and I'm open FreightVana, right? I mean, the reason why you go out and you put all the chips in for all the reasons is one thing, but the economic benefit of that long term is I'm able to change lives, not just for myself, but the people that have been on this journey with me. And so that's where all the chips are right now.
Yeah. 100%. I get it, man.
My next question is for those 18, 25-year-olds out there, what kind of advice would you give them if they want to go into transportation or start a business? Kind of put yourself back into your 18, 22-year-old shoes, and what kind of good perspective or information or wisdom can you give to that 18-year-old right now? Easy
answer, and I learned it later. And so to give this to 20-year-old me or someone else that's following, I'd say networking. You have these networks when you grow up, and they're your friend networks. And then you have your work network, but that's who you work with. But what you're not creating is a professional network. And so that has served me so well over the last decade, and certainly over the last 5 years since taking this leap, the amount of industry friends and people that I can reach out to and questions asked and learn from is just tremendous. And support, right? It's just all positive. But if I went back to the 18 or 25, it's hey, when you get into an industry, who are other people in that industry? Are you connecting with them? Are you going to go in a lot of corporations, right? This is, that big company that I used to work for, they really didn't promote people to go into conferences.
Really?
No, certain people could go to conferences, but that was a little bit of the procurement loop where you never really knew your value until you kind of got out there and been able to do that stuff. And so they didn't promote that.
Is it kind of keep them dumb?
Yeah.
type of mentality, so they don't realize.
Obviously not stated, but the way you say it, it makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense.
It is.
Don't get them smart enough to where they want to leave or do their own thing or take our clients or whatever. Right? It's a real thing.
Not take clients, know their worth. Same answer. Yeah. I'd say different perspective, okay. But I guess my point is, so if your company operates that way, there's a reason why they're doing that. I don't think that that's the desired path, but that's maybe how it matriculates itself through the culture.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes culture picks itself. It's not like a stated thing. Yeah. That's just how it works. Mm-hmm. So for that 18 to 25-year-old person, what's your industry look like? Who are the other thought leaders? Who's got a similar role to you? What are other people working on? What are the other problems that they have? Like, are you spending time building your network? Yeah. Man, if I could have started that, and I jumped around a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship and all the things, but like that would be the thing I'd give people most is like people want the network when they have the need. The second thing of that is like, what are you giving to the network? Right. What knowledge are you giving to the network? What are you sharing? What are you sacrificing? Because people only want a network when it serves them. Exactly. Like, oh, I'm unemployed. Well, I need everybody to like do something. Like,
open for work on LinkedIn.
Yeah. It's like, but what did you do?
Yeah.
Like for them and for your people. So I think giving earlier and creating earlier would be the biggest like superpowers to anybody.
So what about your kids? I mean, do you want to see FreightVana kind of run in your family, or are they not interested in that? I mean, I know you have some younger kids.
Yeah, I mean, my 22-year-old works directly for me now. Awesome. So he loves the business. He's a hustler. Tristan's 11, and I don't think Addie's quite there at the age of 8. Yeah. So I mean, look, I think the next 3, 5, 7 years will be really interesting as we grow. We've built, to your point, in the face of adversity, and then I think proven what we can be. I'd love to, see what those opportunities look like. There's partnerships that are enticing. I'd like to be enticed to have a really strategic partnership. At the same time, like obviously, being an entrepreneur, like building it and having that pride of ownership and that full creative control is super cool too. So I don't really have it all mapped out. I just think head down, keep working through kind of these challenging times. And we've been blessed with really good partners and more importantly, like a fabulous group of people around me that have supported it. So,
okay, one last question for advice for a younger generation. If they are, obviously you want to be a doctor, you go to college, you want to be an engineer. If they're interested in business and, being financially successful, let's say they're your kid, they're 15, 16, 17, do you want them to go to college, or do you say it's better to, hey, go get internships, go get all this work experience and network? What do you think is at this point the better option?
I wouldn't say either or. I think still college has a place. I don't think college at the premium price tag has a place. Right, if I'm being honest. Yeah. I think a college experience where you
mature and
get to go do the extra classes and you get to pick a major and you do that. Now, leveraging yourself or your family to the hilt where you've got a few $100,000 of debt to do that, I'm not necessarily in that camp. So I think college is still good, but I think that real life experience, like working with your hands. Mm-hmm. I think that we see all that stuff with like kind of the anti-AI, which is like, hey, like, are you handy? Like, can you work with your hands? Like that type of business, but like a lot of our kids growing up don't.
Yeah.
If you're being honest, and they're kind of helpless, which is sad. But I remember like, as I was a kid, my dad's like, we're doing the yard. Yeah. And we were doing the yard. And so you had to learn how to use the tools and like all the things. And so you build a different level of mentality and be able to work with your hands and go to Home Depot and figure it out. My concern for my kids is like, how do I give them those experiences? Yeah. So I definitely want to put them in like the tougher spots, but the world's pulling in a way where it makes it more and more challenging for sure.
100%.
Yeah, we have that discussion all the time, me and my wife, because I grew up actually wrenching on trucks. And, my dad was a small owner-operator type company, 10, 12 trucks. And I grew up in it with him every single day, which was awesome. We like grew up as best friends. He took me out. And I got a lot of the mechanic mindset and like figuring it out, talking to drivers, a lot of experience at a young age. And now, like, for me, I'm saying, okay, I want to make a better life for myself. Not a better life, but meaning like I don't want to be stuck under a truck, right? I want to be able to be mobile and have people, be able to delegate and not have to go do that maybe myself necessarily, but then the downside is my kid is going to grow up not having those hard jobs to work on. So I'm like, man, I need to buy a landscaping or start a landscape, just something for him to work in where it's hands-on, right? Like, of course, he can go to the office and learn how to book loads and learn that. But what about the mechanic and the hands-on stuff and first? So it's a big debate and a big issue that we might have in a couple years. We're going to need the plumbers and the mechanics.
Yeah, they're saying that the plumbing and electrical businesses are about to skyrocket because...
Yeah, and that's where the big money's going, right? That's why the PE companies are buying up pest control and HVACs and this, because they see it too. But then that's a different rack. So, but yeah, if you have that hustle and you can do that, but I think that's the biggest gap. So yeah, definitely working in the business, but even just simply like working with your hands and like, you know, I remember strapping the leaf blower up when I was probably like, 70, it's filled and it hurts my shoulder. And my dad's like, all right, you got to do the whole yard. And you're just like, geez.
The edger.
All of it, man. Yeah. Like and that dang string that always gets stuck and you're taking that thing apart every 5 minutes.
I think I got some cuts on my
cursing at it. Yeah. But that's part of it, right? Like that's the, you gotta.
I think it really makes you appreciate, coming out of that and starting a business and having money and investing and, that. And if they never learn that appreciation, they're going to be like, well, what is there to appreciate? I've been like this since I was 4,
It's a fine line.
Yeah, it's a very fine line. But thanks for coming on and thanks for having us. And I'd love to connect more on Polo with you and, just become friends and golf and, show me your ways. But
got to work on that driver's swing.
Thanks for coming out and appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks
guys.
for the merch.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
I want some merch pictures.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Thank you.